This is a Global Original Podcast. As you can hear from the echoey sound of my voice, I am self-isolating in the concourse of Victoria Station. There's nobody else here. Coming up this week, how to transform your car from whatever colour it is to green, ripped jeans, and something the Queen says when she can't hear what you've said. But first, this woman has alarming news about your dinner.
Nick?
Yes, Wendy. Wendy, you're in Fulham.
Yes. I was just phoning up to remind you that, I said to you last year or 2 years ago...
No. I'll just stop you right there. No, I do not remember.
Well, this is a reminder, right? So, sprouts... Really, if you eat sprouts, it can it has a tendency for psychopathic tendencies. Do you remember now?
No, yeah, that sounds like the sort of thing I would remember. If you eat sprouts, you acquire psychopathic tendencies.
Yeah. So I did find. So I didn't know what to do with my sprouts. And,
well, don't eat them, whatever you do.
No. So I went out the back and I used them as weapons because there's a couple of pigeons up there.
Oh, yeah, right.
So I was
hurling sprouts at pigeons. Yeah, well, that makes sense.
Yeah. I didn't kill them or anything, but so
throw harder.
What?
I'm glad to hear it, Wendy.
Pardon me. What did you say?
No, you don't have to say pardon. What is actually, it's very non-you to say pardon. Apparently the Queen and Philip, they say what. So you go ahead and say what too.
But I'm from Fulham.
Oh, well, yeah, that's right. Yeah, I remember that. You're all very polite.
Be polite!
In Fulham. Eat your Brussels, Wendy, and you'll sit there till you do. I'm sorry.
No, but I go to the supermarket, and when I see them, it reminds me of what I've read. Do you know what I mean? When something puts you off or something.
No.
Oh, you do.
No, I do not know what you mean. No, I'm afraid I don't. I've got to go. Thanks a lot, Wendy. Eat sprouts, and this will be you. Psychopathic tendencies. Maybe it answers a lot of questions that we've had over the Christmas period. That's why people go berserk. It's the sprouts what did it. Well, that just makes sense. And in other news, old people don't like what young people are going out wearing. Yes, Tony.
Talking about ridiculous fashion, whoever invented or came up with the idea of having jeans with rips right down the front?
Yeah. They're pre-ripped for your convenience.
Yeah, they walk down the aisle of the bus and they're catching the jeans in the aisle and tripping over. It must be more accident claims than anything. They ought to sue the designers, not the bus companies.
It's just, it's beyond my ability to fathom. I can't understand why anybody would pay extra to have something that looks like it's ruined. Why can't you just buy a decent pair and ruin them yourself?
When we had an apprentice, if we had a burn mark on them, we used to throw them out. And that was... no wonder the Queen got cheese off with Meghan.
You should have kept them. You should have kept them, Tony. They'd be worth a fortune now.
They'd be 50 years old now.
Well, like I said, they'd be vintage.
All right. Anyway, I'll go.
Okay, cheers, mate. 0345 6060 973. How is that still a thing? I'm sorry, kids, but if you've got those jeans with your bony knees poking through them, you look like planks. And I mean that in the most positive and respectful way possible. You look like idiots. You really do. All those rips right down the front of your jeans, maybe frosted jeans, even they didn't look as bad as the ones with rips down the front of them. And as for those jeans that blokes are wearing now that look like ballet tights, well, for crying out loud, have you seen yourself? No one looks good in those. Everybody looks like a numpty in those things. It's just, I don't know about you, but I'm very disappointed in the kids. And kids are probably thinking, well, this is just the opinion of an old geezer. Old geezer? That's offensive. This text says it's a supply and demand industry. There are many cows. Oh, I see the farming. I thought we were talking about clothes. Everything's a supply and demand industry. He or she says there are many cows because they are artificially mass-produced to keep up with the demand to eat them. Obviously, if less people eat them, the demand decreases and they won't be populated at the same rate. Eye roll. Stop supporting the meat and dairy industry. Selfish ignoramuses. Smiley face. Yeah, well, you can take your smiley face and you can stick it. It's a supply and demand industry, as though he or she is revealing some great truth that was shrouded before. I know that. Neil in Harrogate says, Nick, I live in a council flat, and the nearest parking is over a road. How can I charge an electric vehicle? My 10-year-old Volvo does 50 to the gallon. It does auto start and stops in traffic. How can people say there are zero emissions when they buy power from other countries? Wow, there's so much in there. I don't have time to unpack it all. So I'll just say, yeah, I've got no idea. What are you asking me for?
Coming up, what America is doing to us without our written permission.
I am not one of your fans!
So, late breaking news. The professional footballers, so that's way too many syllables. Particularly for a footballer. Oh, and the lads done great, and it's all credit to the lads, and the lads done great, and the manager was great, and the fans are great, and it's all credit to the manager and the fans and the lads. The PFA, see, that's 3 syllables. Anybody can do that. The PFA have called for a government inquiry into racism and the rise of hate crime within football. A government inquiry. What's the point? I'll tell you what the reason for it is. Numpties. They're everywhere. They didn't go anywhere. They've just felt emboldened lately because of, this and that. Not mentioning any names. Because of this and that. They've felt emboldened to get out their inner 70s and pour it all over us. So I don't know whether I want to get into that. It's Sunday. It's supposed to be festive. So let's talk about the dying planet, shall we? The US has banned mention of the climate crisis in trade talks with the EU.
Oh, no.
The UK, not the EU. We're leaving that. In fact, we're almost out of it. Oh. The air is already fresher. Can you feel it?
No.
The US has banned mention of the climate crisis in trade talks with the UK. That's because those newfangled eco-bulbs make President Trump look orange.
Groovy.
Or whatever that shade is. I think it's more of a peach powder puff. It's not real, we know that, because if you look at a close-up of his head, there's a line where whoever it is that trowels that stuff on his face every morning, there's a line which doesn't blend into the rest of his head. His eco bulbs. He's been banging on about them lately. I think maybe one of his assistants told him that people think he looks orange. I bet he exploded when he heard that, and now he's tried to explain it away. He can't let anything go. Yet totally eco bulbs. That's why he looks orange. And we know that because he told us so, and he knows a lot about stuff like that.
What do I know about it? All I know is what's on the internet.
So in negotiating a trade deal with the United States of America, the Trump administration has told the UK that the climate crisis cannot be mentioned. Hang on, I'm going to cough. That's better. The climate crisis can't be mentioned if we want a great and huge trade deal with the United States of America. In fact, the US has banned even the mention of climate change at all.
says Nick Dearden, the director of Global Justice Now. He says Trump is a climate change denier, and any US deal is going to make it much harder for Britain to meet its already tepid commitments. Yes, we do have tepid commitments. They keep banging on about how we are the leader in the world. We're going to, bring in all sorts of excellent technological devices, like wind power, for instance.
I know a lot about wind. And
all sorts of things, and we're going to absolutely go carbon neutral to some future date. We don't want to get nailed down to it. But, we'll cross our fingers and hope that we don't all submerge before we get there. In negotiating a trade deal with the United States of America, the Trump administration has told us that climate crisis cannot even be mentioned, let alone dealt with or acted upon. I mean, I think that we've taken a wrong turn somewhere. I think we took a wrong turn about 3.5 years ago, and it's you-know-who's fault.
I think this is nonsense.
Yeah, we're still not missing you, Dave, but we know where to find you if we do. You'll be in the tool, in the sheds. No. You'll be... Oh, never mind. It's a shed tool thing. I'll explain it later. So we're going to be crawling across the carpet to beg Fat Donny for a trade deal. And at that point, we will be desperate. And I'm sure that Donald Trump is just the sort of person to treat us with kindness and respect.
Donald Trump is not a nice person.
The super secret dossier on our future trade negotiations with the Screaming Mimi was highlighted by Labour. You remember the Labour Party, don't you? They used to be a thing in the 70s. I don't know what happened to them. What did happen to them? Where are they now? They're looking for a new leader. They're looking for a new leader who gives good hair. I bet it's going to be Keir Starmer. Betcha. And people are going to start whining about him. Oh, he's like Tony Blair. I bet they've started whining about him already. He is just wildly popular. I think a full 9% of the population would back a Keir Starmer presidency, premiership. It's a great start. So this dossier on our future trade negotiations with Donald Trump was highlighted by Labour during the election campaign. That was when Jeremy Corbyn said it proved that the NHS was on the table in future talks. And the government said no. And furthermore...
No.
But it is. I mean, it's unbelievable that it's not on the table for future talks, because we already spend about a quarter of the NHS budget on private healthcare providers. A quarter. Don't tell me it's not for sale. It's already been sold in large amounts. And now that same dossier sheds light on how far the UK is going to have to bend to the White House on the environment, which is not something that Donald Trump says he believes in. Doesn't believe in the environment, doesn't believe in climate change, doesn't believe in science. Nature. I mean, look... He doesn't believe in nature because look what it's done to him.
Oh, shut up!
You wouldn't believe in it either. One memo reads, the UK inquired about the possibility of including reference to climate change in a future UK-US trade agreement, given that the UK has a strong historical stance on climate change and pushed strongly for the Paris Agreement. The UK also highlighted the pressure for this that would come from civil society and non-governmental organisations. The US responded emphatically that climate change is the most politically sensitive question for the US, stating it is a lightning rod issue, mentioning that as of 2015, US trade representatives are not to include mention of greenhouse gas emission reductions in trade agreements. How can it possibly be a politically sensitive question for the US? Not the most politically sensitive question for the US. Their citizens are dropping down dead because school children are walking into schools with weapons of mass destruction. And they're worried about this. They're worried about not mentioning climate change because they might upset the coal industry. We're doomed. Unless you're one of those people that don't believe in climate change yourself, because you read a post on Facebook by someone with green teeth who said that science is not a thing.
Oh, fabulous.
Those people are everywhere. I bet they're so furious that they're just bashing numbers randomly on their phone, hoping that they can get through to me to shout about what a stupid moron I am. Oh, it's just weather. I had a bloke a couple of days ago in a state of high dudgeon call me and started screaming at me about the sun. Oh, it's warm. Can't you tell it's warm? It used to be colder. It's just weather. You know, an expert. The Greenpeace Policy Director, Dr. Doug Parr, said, he said, if climate change are taboo words for Trump's negotiators, that's just a hint of the crushing pressure our environmental standards will come under in any trade deal with the US. For US industrial lobbies, this deal is the long-awaited chance to get rid of the rules banning things like chlorinated chicken and hormone-grown beef from our shelves, while leaving our climate and energy policies at the mercy of trade disputes. This is what we're facing, kids. You think we're going to be free of the European Union? We're not. We may be out from under the umbrella of the Rainbow Coalition of European friends. But we're now going to tie ourselves to Ancient Orange in the White House. That guy. That doesn't seem like a good switch to me. Nick Dearden, Director of Global Justice Now, said recent trade deals with North America have increased climate-destructive industrial agriculture and the flow of tar sands oil into Europe. But in a US-UK deal, US negotiators have been clear that they're not remotely interested in even listening to discussion of climate change. Either we allow policies which will further devastate the environment, or the deal is dead. We've taken back control from a democratic rainbow coalition and given it to a ranting, thin-skinned, bright orange powder puff ignoramus totally bought for and paid for by the donors of his campaign funds. That's why he keeps going on about clean coal. We're going to go back to coal. It's because the coal industry gave him tens of millions of dollars. It's amazing. Sometimes it really is all about the money, honey. This dossier shows that the US wants the UK to agree to an investor-state dispute settlement system, about which we should be very concerned. What that means is that foreign corporations could sue us outside of the national legal system. You know, we're going to take back our laws. You've heard that over and over again. We're going to take back our laws and we're going to give them to Amazon and Esso, who will be able to sue us if they think our government does something that inconveniences them. This is our future. Dearden said the icing on the cake is that awful corporate court system which allows big business to sue governments in secret without the right of appeal. And don't think that this is something that couldn't possibly happen. You know, if our government does something that inconveniences, Apple or Exxon Mobil or, one of these giant corporations. If our government does something for the benefit of us, the people of this country, and a giant American corporation doesn't like it, they can sue us in secret. We'd never know about it, apart from suffering the consequences. And if you think that couldn't possibly happen, only this year an energy corporation sued the Netherlands in one such court because the Dutch government proposed to phase out coal production and use. I am not making this up. This is a true fact. US negotiators have been clear that they would want the most red-blooded corporate court system available in a US-UK trade deal, allowing the massive US fossil fuel industry to bully and threaten the British government over its climate policy. An energy corporation from America sued Holland because Holland wanted to phase out coal production use. They didn't want that to happen, so they sued them. You'd think I'd making this up. You'd think it'd be some sort of dystopian future, but it's not a dystopian future. It's the future. And if that happens, this is going to lock in climate devastation and undermine any promises that Boris Johnson makes on environmental protection. You might think that he's disseminating misinformation in that regard. Liar! Or maybe he hasn't heard about this. Are you listening, Boris? Still, I mean, never mind. It's just the future of the country and mankind. What could possibly go wrong? 0345 6060 973. You can text 84850. Email nick@lbc.co.uk. And if you're on Twitter, it's @LBC. I think I got through that without any mistakes. I'm doing very well.
It was seamless, and that's a fact. Coming up, I can't understand a caller from Ireland and a weird plan to greenify your car.
Nice to talk to you, Nick. I'm a big fan of LBC, have done for about 30 years. It all started with Robbie Vincent's Nightline. And
can we skip the history lesson?
Yep, no problem at all. What do you want to talk about? The business of electric cars and all that sort of thing?
If that's what you called about. let's start with that.
I'm on the autistic spectrum, so I kind of go about conversation slightly different. It's just a part of the way we live, and we just get on with it. Our lives are kind of slightly different from how other people think.
All right, electric cars. Lay it on me, baby.
Well, you've got to get on with it, and you've got to build some high-end production plants where you can drive them in and then drive out with an electric car. Because let's face it, these fossil fuel guzzling vehicles are obviously contaminating this planet of ours, and we've got to do something about it. Is that right?
I'd missed the part about you drive in and then you drive out with an electric car. What happens in the intervening period?
Well, you drive in with. This is just an idea I've come up with. You drive in with your gas guzzler.
Oh yeah.
You go and sit down, have a nice meal, and have a few bevies, and
nice cup of tea. Mm-hmm. A little bit of booze. Yes.
Yep. Get on with it, and then. And about an hour and a half later, you come up with something decent that's electric.
Right. Hey, presto.
How's that?
Alakazam. It sounds like an excellent idea, Neil. Leave it with me and I'll have a full workable report on your desk first thing in the morning.
Thank you very much, sir.
Okay, thank you. See, very, very polite.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Robin Chertsey says, Trump does not believe in climate change, but 31,487 scientists proved to him that it isn't caused by CO2. Climate has always changed. You obviously didn't bother to look at the DVD I sent you, otherwise you wouldn't have such an ignorant attitude on climate. What DVD? Who are you? 31,487 scientists. Well, that sounds like a very, very specific number that you just made up. Trump does believe in climate change. No, he doesn't. Well, actually, it's hard to believe. It's hard to know what Trump believes in because he just says things that whoever gave him money last, or whoever he saw on TV last said. He just repeats it. He apes them. 31,487 scientists proved to him that it isn't caused by CO2. What are you talking about, Robin Chertsey? Someone on Twitter said, Nick, stop lying to everybody about bleeping climate change. Who are these people? Honestly, I just don't get it. People that get absolutely furious about the scientific consensus that climate change is a thing. It is happening now. Look at the blooming news. Australia's on fire. It's just had the hottest day ever. 50 Celsius in Australia. No wonder it's bursting into flames. This country is flooded almost in its entirety. It doesn't seem like it's stopped raining for months. And it doesn't matter what happens. It doesn't matter if we are up to our eyeballs in snowdrifts in June. People will still say that it's got nothing to do with climate change. It's just weather. But why they say that is unfathomable. I just can't get my head around it. There's so many people. Well, I'm not sure that there's a lot of people by number, but they certainly are loud. Could you tone it down a little bit? Tone it down to a roar. And they're just fury mongers. They're so angry about everything all the time. But why they're angry about that, it's just beyond my capacity to comprehend. Why pick that? It's just, I don't get it. I really genuinely don't. they're not just in disagreement, they're absolutely furious that anybody is suggesting that there is such a thing as man-made climate change. And they base that very, very strongly held opinion on no information of any kind whatsoever. They've got no idea what they're talking about, but it doesn't prevent them from having a strong opinion. And boy, do they express it. I bet they're yelling at the radio right now. This says, after your show yesterday, I watched a program about climate change. There is some hope if we do the right thing in the next 10 years. If we do some hope in the next 10 years, we're not doomed. We're doomed. But, says the text, and it's a big, giant, wobbly but, it's the tipping points, as in irreversible changes that are dangerous to our planet. Exactly. And once we reach a tipping point, like when the permafrost starts to melt, oh no, that's right, it already is melting. Or when the ice on Greenland melts, oh no, that's happening too. Or when Australia bursts into flames, no, that's a thing as well. Or when the oceans become acidic, the acidification of the ocean, no, that's a thing as well. Yeah, all these tipping points that we were absolutely sure we would never suffer because human beings aren't stupid. We wouldn't live a life out of balance. Well, guess what? We do. Name me one other animal on Earth that lives a life out of balance, that is actually actively ruining their own environment, apart from us. There isn't one. Human beings are a disease, a cancer on this planet. We're a plague. Every mammal on the planet instinctively develops a natural equilibrium with the surrounding environment, but humans don't. The Matrix. I know Kung Fu. The Matrix was right. The problem is, we all took the red pill and we should have taken the blue one. This says, do you honestly think sunlight can set fire to trees? What's that going to do with anything? I don't believe I ever said that. But sunlight can set fire to trees. And, honest opinion, would you agree it isn't an emergency when sea levels are rising about 6 centimetres a century? Well, it depends where you live. If you live in the Maldives, it's a serious issue. If you live at the top of Ben Nevis, not so much. But it might not be 6 centimetres a century. That might historically be the case. I don't know. But if all the ice on Greenland melted, it's miles thick. If it all melted, experts tell us that the sea level could rise by 7 metres. And that would make every city on Earth, probably, that is connected to water, which is every city on Earth, pretty much, all of the ones on the coasts and on rivers, they would be unlivable. And that includes London. We'd have to relocate London to... I've got no idea. Where would we put it? Every single person in this country that doesn't live in London is marking their own territory, saying, well, not around here. We don't want your sort round here. Except they wouldn't do that in that accent. Let's have Belfast. Hello, Holly.
Oh, me already?
Holly.
I'm moving along. I want to finally know. Oh, I'm sorry, I forgot to say hi to all the pleasantries.
Holly, I've got no idea what you're saying. What are you saying?
I spoke to you a couple of weeks ago.
Oh, yeah.
And you told me after the election, you would tell me of young Corbyn. Now, you respect James O'Brien. Right.
I heard something about Corbyn and something about James O'Brien. Other than that, I'm utterly lost.
No, I'm saying James O'Brien says his opinion. So tell me your opinion of Corbyn.
My opinion of Corbyn?
Yes, I've been waiting for this for weeks. I would like to know how you feel.
With my hands.
But that's it. You won't give any further.
What is it about him that you want me to give an opinion on?
I want you to say whether you like or dislike the man.
I don't know him.
No, I mean you like the policies, yes?
I like some of his policies, as do the people.
Do you like Labour in general, or?
I have voted for them in the past, yes.
So I guess you won't tell me who you voted for this time around, no?
I will if you want. I don't see that it
Yes,
really helps one way or the other. But I didn't vote for
that.
Jeremy Corbyn. I voted for the Labour Party, just because I couldn't bring myself to vote for the alternatives.
Oh, so what you mean you voted for your... So remember you saying that it was about you had a whole issue...
Oh, yeah.
With you liked your plants
Yeah,
and...
I did, yeah.
Something...
I had an issue because my local councillor was not a member of the Labour Party. He was a member of a party that I didn't want to run the country. Because I patriotically decided that they were not fit to run the country. But he, as a local representative, I think that he's actually quite good, and we agree on some of the issues locally, but not nationally.
Yeah.
And so I wanted him to stay in, but I didn't want to add my vote to a possible win for the party that he represents.
I assumed you had a Conservative MP in your area. Therefore, you didn't want to vote for that because you'd be voting for Johnson. Hence, the situation. Which, anyway, it doesn't matter in Northern Ireland.
It doesn't really matter, no. Here, Holly, I'm going to have to go, but it's been...
no problem.
It's been an inspiration. I thought you were going to take it worse than that. No problem.
She's very polite. And that's it. If you subscribe to this podcast, you'll find the next episode gets squirted up your life as though by magic on Mondays. And don't forget the podcast that I do with Carol McGiffin, called What's Your Problem with Nick and Carol, in which Carol McGiffin and I try to solve your problems while laughing like drains. And if you would like us to have a bash at your problem, then send it to the following address: nickandcarol@global.com. That's nickandcarol@global.com. And you can find that podcast where you found this one. Ask for it by name. What's Your Problem with Nick and Carol? And I'll be back on the radio Friday and Saturday nights at 10. And until then, I'll be seeing you.
Bye-bye.